Hey y'all, hi. So today I am going to be applying to my face, discussing and swatching a couple of products that have been pretty recently released by the brand Rose Inc. When Rose Inc. first released, I spent some of my channel's budget for review products on some of the products from the initial launch, and I reviewed them. I'll link that video in the cards and in the description box down below, of course. I was way more impressed by those products than I expected to be, and because of that, I've been keeping an eye on the brand. They've released a couple of things since then that didn't interest me, but these new launches really did. So there's a cream highlighter, a cream bronzer, and a lipstick. The money to buy these products came out of my June review budget. A lot of times what I decide to spend my budget on in a given month doesn't actually get reviewed until the following month. There are a couple of reviews going up in July, this one and my review of the Haus Labs products. Those are the videos that resulted from me spending the June budget. In July, I'm on a no-buy, so I'm not actually going to be spending the channel's budget for self-sponsored review this month. Joe and I have decided that he'll be the one choosing the products and spending the budget. At least one entertaining video, if not a couple of entertaining videos, are likely to result from that, so stay tuned. But I just wanted to clarify that these are June purchases that are being reviewed in July. If this is your first time to my channel, then welcome. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Hannah. I love makeup. I love beauty. I have a troubled history with overspending that I have for the most part conquered. I did a no-buy year, a couple of years of budgeting. Recently, I've been struggling a little bit though, and that's why I went back on a no-buy for the month of July. And I posted a video about that, and I will link that as well in case you haven't seen it and you want to watch it. I try to make beauty content that celebrates the love of beauty without promoting overspending. And if that sounds good to you, I hope you'll subscribe. Now, let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. I've put some makeup on my face to prep because I just want to focus on the 3 products that I'm going to be applying and reviewing for this video, but I'll tell you what I have on my face so far so that you have all of the information. In my brows, I'm wearing the Refi Brow Pomade and the Haus Labs Eyebrow Pencil in Ash Brown. I primed my skin with the Exa Beauty Primer, which I reviewed recently. I'll link that video too, and I actually ended up using it a lot more than I expected to since that review. I think I like it better than I thought I did. For base, I applied a combination of the Exa Green Color Corrector and the Rose Inc. Concealer in the lightest shade LX010. I also powdered a tiny bit with the Kosas Cloud Set Powder in the shade Airy. I applied the Rose Inc. Cream Blush in the shade Heliotrope. I have nothing on my eyes except for the Chantecaille mascara, and I'm wearing a tiny bit of Ilia lip wrap on my lips just to keep them from drying out too much between now and when I apply the lip product in this video. So that's our starting point. I used all of the Rose Inc. products that I reviewed in the initial video, except for the lip product, because I'm going to be using the new Rose Inc. lipstick today. And again, if you want more information about how I feel about that lip product, the Rose Inc. concealer, or the cream blush, then click through and watch my first Rose Inc. review. Today, we're going to get right into these new products, and I think we're going to start with the bronzer, which surprised me because it's so much bigger than the other pans, and maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention, but I didn't know that based on the listing. I just expected that it would be the exact same packaging because it's the same shape and the same color, and at first glance, it looks the same. So when the box arrived from Sephora and I opened it up and there were 2 different sizes of boxes, like the unit cartons were 2 different sizes, I was like, oh no, something's wrong. I thought I ordered the blush and the bronzer. I was actually worried that the big box was one of the products and that the smaller box was a replacement, and that I had accidentally just ordered a replacement insert rather than the entire component, because these products are refillable. You can just buy refills, which is one of the things that's great about them. But for a second, I thought I had accidentally purchased a refill. Then I opened them up and I saw that the bronzer is this oversized version version of the other packaging, but that's not the only thing that's different. It doesn't flip open. It's not a compact. It actually twists off. I quite like this, and maybe I just like being surprised. Maybe I also like the fact that it's kind of evocative of the iconic Chanel bronzer, which I've never tried. I, of course, got it in the lightest shade, which is called Parrot Key, and I feel like right away, before I even touch it or say anything about it, you can see what the problem's going to be. It's really on the orange side. And for a bronzer to work for me, it has to lean rosy or at least super neutral brown at the very least. This is partly because I'm so pale, and so when I get sun, I don't actually become orange at all in any way. I get quite ruddy, so orange looks unnatural on me for a bronzer. It can work for a statement blush, but not for a product that's trying to do what this product is trying to do. And that issue is compounded by the fact that I have an olive undertone. So my complexion tends to make cheek products skew orange anyway. A bronzer really has to be like orange, I don't know her, for it to suit me, for me to fall in love with it. As you can see, I've already used it a little bit. I haven't gotten a ton of use out of it, but I've used it enough to know that it is as orange on the face as it looks in the pot, but we'll work with it. We'll make it work. So I'm using this Tom Ford blush brush, and I like it because it's quite stiff. I know usually people use bigger brushes than this for bronzer, but I really want to be able to control where it goes. I'll just put it on half my face to start. You know, it's not like, well, I was going to say it's not looking that bad or as orange as I remember it, but it kind of is. So the fact that I already had the blush on and it was kind of blending with the blush did help with the color a little bit. I will say that one of the reasons that I feel comfortable using this denser, smaller, more targeted blush brush is that my testing of this formula has shown me that it's hard to go overboard with it. It has a lovely kind of veiling of the skin quality. It's not intensely pigmented. And for a cream bronzer, I feel like that's really important. There are a lot of cream products that going into them with this brush in particular, and really swirling like I did, I would worry that I was picking up so much product that it would just be like pigment overload, get patchy, have a hard time spreading it out, making it even. And I don't have that concern at all with this product. It's so easy. I mean, like, look, the blend is beautiful, and I didn't try that hard, and I don't have that much experience with bronzer because I don't use it very often. It looks a little patchy under here, and that's because I have some scarring, and I'm not wearing a full coverage foundation or anything. But, you know, you can see up here and how it blends over the cheek and into the blush. The formula is great, but I think I can safely and fairly say I hate the color. I just hate it. And to give you a sense of what works better, on my middle finger, I swatched Parrot Key from Rose Inc. And on my pointer finger here, I swatched the Haus Labs bronzer in the lightest shade, which is light level 1. You can see that the Haus Labs bronzer is just way, way more neutral, almost to the point of feeling like it's a little bit of a rosy brown. And compared to it, Parrot Key is straight up orange. There's Haus Labs, there's Rose Inc. The Haus Labs bronzer, which is clearly the one on top, also has a lovely, super creamy and sheerable quality. It's not as much of a cream, but it has so many of the same good qualities formulaically. And to me, there's just no contest. They released around the same time, and in my opinion, the Haus Labs bronzer, especially for someone with my complexion, is a far superior product. Entirely for reasons of color. I mean, I just feel maybe there are people for whom this is a good bronzer color. Look at me reviewing bronzer. I'm like, let me tell you about bronzer. I have information about bronzer. Okay, even though I despise it, I'm going to get the other side matching this side so that we can proceed. Okay, after saying that it was easy not to go overboard because of the formula, I kind of went overboard that time, and now Alyssa Edwards' words to Coco Montrese are ringing in my ears. But you know, I'm not going to keep this. I'm going to give it away. It's just not going to work for me, which is fine. These products are just for review, and one of the things that I think makes me a really good neutral reviewer is that because I get them just for review, I'm not really hoping that they'll work out. the way that I think that people are when they buy products with their own money. I actually just don't have a horse in this race, right? It's a miss, and maybe kind of in the abstract, it's a shame that the brand, in my opinion, doesn't understand what the lightest shade of bronzer should do or should be. But it's a good thing that I've been able to do my job here and to tell and to show you that this is just way, way too orange for someone pale and olive, and to tell you that the formula is good. So if you have a really different complexion from me and there's a shade in this range that you think will work for you, or if you just enjoy thinking about makeup and you have a morbid curiosity, even though you're definitely not going to be buying this bronzer, I'm glad that I was able to do my job and deliver the information. Let's move on to the highlighter, which is such a curious product in a couple of ways. I got it also in the lightest shade. It's called Brilliant. And this is in the original Rose Ink compact, just like the cream blush. It's the exact same compact. And these inserts, these refills, are interchangeable. So in theory, you could get this compact, use up this product, and then replace it with one of the blushes or vice versa. The surface of the pan feels very interesting and curious, but also familiar to me. There's something that it reminds me of really strongly. That is what the color looks like on my finger. There it is in a single thick swatch. And there it is blended out all over the back of my hand. Beautiful, right? But here's how it looks from back here. And I don't know if you'll be able to see the difference, but this product, it's really curious in terms of how it behaves in light. My experience is that if it catches direct light or even kind of intense, good, healthy light, it looks unbelievably beautiful. Really wet, super glossy, has that very kind of sheer, gleamy quality. And it's great because it isn't wet at all. It's very, very much like a cream, semi-cream to powder finish. It definitely buffs out to something that literally has no tack, no stickiness, is not at all balmy. It's just not a balm. It feels, and I hope that you don't take this the wrong way, but it feels a little bit sandy. It has that kind of quality of particles moving, particles that are all pressed and stuck together, moving under the surface of your finger when you touch it. But it feels creamy. It doesn't feel sandy like granular. It just feels sandy in that way of a mixture that has a moldable quality that you can like move with your finger. But ultimately, the character of the mixture is that it's dry. The way that like wet sand is ultimately like a dry thing rather than a cream. That was why I was using sand to try to explain it to you. The creaminess is in there, the wetness is in there, but it's just not balmy, wet, damp really at all, and certainly not tacky or sticky at any phase. When you're touching it with your finger, when you're applying it, and especially after you buff it out and it sets, it's basically just dry. So to have that combination of uber wet look glossiness and that dry finish, that's like my dream cream highlighter, right? And when I first put it on the first time, it was the early morning, the sunlight was coming in, I was getting ready for the day, put it on, and I was like, whoa, I was blown away. I was like, I'm an influencer. I'm in the sun. My cheek is smooth and shining. I just felt like it was the greatest glossy highlight of my life. And I was really excited to tell you guys about it. And then that very night, I came back. I think I'd been out and about a lot that day and I'd been wearing my mask a lot, taking it on, putting it on, taking it off, putting it on, taking it off. And when I sat down at the very end of the day to get ready to wash my face, I was like, I'm just going to play with that highlighter again for fun, makeup playtime. So I pulled it out and I was going to reapply like a really thick amount. I picked it up on my finger. I started putting it on my face and I was like, it's just dull nothingness. It's just sort of this paste, this slightly pearl colored paste that I'm putting on my cheek. I was like, I can't see the reflect. It doesn't look glossy. Absolutely nothing like the look I had gotten that morning. And I think that the difference was the lighting. It was dim. It was kind of dim in the room. I was using artificial light that was just coming from one direction, but that was pretty diffuse. The lights around my vanity mirror. That lighting just was not setting off the product the way that the morning light had set it off. And I feel like you can kind of see the difference here, right? Like there, that is the glassy gleam that I fell in love with that I was getting in the morning because of the lighting or the angle or whatever it was. Maybe back here you can get a sense of of how it was looking in the evening, although maybe there you can kind of get a sense, even though that's really a thick swatch. I'm not getting that strong light from above. And so it's just sort of that pasty pearl. I feel like here you can sort of see both qualities in it because we're getting light from a couple different directions. There, the gleam, and there, the not gleam, kind of. This is a very difficult thing to try to demonstrate on camera, but just take my word for it. This product has the potential to be incredible on the cheeks, incredibly glossy, and it also has the potential to look kind of flat, like a dud, to kind of fall flat. And in my experience, it has everything to do with lighting. And I'm not sure if it's a situation where you wouldn't want to wear it under certain lighting conditions. I just can't believe that's true. I feel like even if I wore it in the candlelight at dinner, there are probably some angles from which you would get that wet look shine. I think that the issue is when you apply it and look in the mirror. If you're doing it in a situation where you don't have the right kind of lighting, you're not going to really be able to see the potential of the product and how it's probably going to look under certain other lighting conditions that you might then walk out into the world and enter. And that's not ideal, right? Like, it's a little bit annoying to have something look that different in different lights. And I don't actually really have like advice on that or a takeaway or anything. I'm just telling you what my experience was. Let me go ahead and apply it to my cheeks and we'll see how it ends up looking on camera. I am going to use my fingers to first apply it and buff it out a little bit, and then I'm going to continue on with the Rephr 05, which is pretty much a dupe for the Tom Ford blush brush that I used for the bronzer. Oh yeah, we're totally getting the wet look shine under this light. Can you see why I freaked out the first time I put it on? I mean, look at it. Oh, it's so pretty, and it's going on over the other cream products so well, letting them show through, not messing them up, not picking them up. Okay, it's so funny because I have a mirror right here underneath the little monitor that shows me what the camera is seeing. And in the mirror, to me, right now, this just looks like a really soft, lit from within, natural glow. But in the monitor, which is showing what the camera is picking up, and the camera is looking at me from a very different angle than the mirror, the camera, I think, is picking up that really, really beautiful, sheer, wet look, glassy shine. So it's about lighting, it's about the angle, it's this weird chameleon product. It doesn't look bad, what I'm seeing in the mirror, that like lit from within, that soft lit from within glow. It doesn't look bad, but it would be nothing to write home about. And if it looked like that all the time, I would be like, don't bother, it's a miss. As it is, I'm just kind of like, proceed with caution. And if you do happen to get it, or if you've already gotten it and you've been like, what's the big idea? Maybe try checking yourself out under some different types of light. Texturally, the thing that this reminds me of, the only other thing in the world that I've ever touched that's like this, is the Salt New York Cream Tint Pro highlighters. They also have that quality where they feel a little bit dry when you first start touching them, that sort of sandy shifting of teeny tiny particles feeling. They start becoming creamy when you press into the pan and warm up the product and move your finger around. And then they give off that really, really lovely shine, but they don't feel sticky or tacky. So because they're so similar, and if you touched the Salt New York Radiant Cream Tint Pro pans, if you know how they feel, you will know exactly how this feels because they feel really, really similar. Because of that, I'm going to swatch this one next to the Salt New York product that I think is the closest, which is Pearl. So Pearl is on top there. It is a bit icier and more white than Brilliant from Rose Inc. There's Salt New York Pearl, and underneath is Brilliant from Rose Inc. You can see how similar they look. The quality of them, right, is similar. Pearl from Salt New York is the one that's closest to my thumb here. So the good news is if you have one of these Salt New York, the good news is actually there are a bunch of pieces of good news about this. If you have one of these Radiant Cream Tint Pro products from Salt New York, then you will literally be duping your collection if you buy one of these Rose Inc cream highlighters. Obviously the colors are slightly different. And actually I feel like the Cream Tint Pro doesn't do that thing where it looks quite dull in certain lights. It'll shift so that it kind of turns invisible in certain lights, but it's either like brilliant or invisible. And I feel like the Rose Ink highlighter is either soft and very dull glowing or really, really brilliant. Those are like its two things that it shifts between. And when it's shining brilliantly, it has that sort of wet look invisible quality to the base. But the way they shift is just slightly different. So if you already have a Cream Tint Pro, a Radiant Cream Tint Pro, don't bother with this. And if you're interested in this, if what I've been saying to you intrigues you, the Salt New York Cream Tint Pro might be a better choice because per pan, they're much less expensive. And if you have experience with the Salt New York Cream Tint Pro Radiant balms and you like the way they look and you like the way they feel and the way they work on your skin, and you're really curious about Rose Ink and you kind of want to go all in with some Rose Ink products, then you can buy this one with confidence knowing that it will work for you because it's really similar to something that you already have. I myself, I usually don't do that. I'm usually not interested in buying something that I know will work for me because it's really similar to something I already have, because it's like, well, if it's so similar to something I already have, then why don't I just use what I already have? But I know that some people build their makeup collections differently than the way that I build mine. So it's good to know that there's something that's super comparable to this that's been on the market for a long time. Let us apply the lipstick. Actually, I'm going to put my mole back on. I'm going to remove this lip balm. And now let us apply the lipstick. It is in the shade Besotted. It is beautiful, and it's also refillable, just like everything from Rose Ink. So if you buy a refill, it'll look like this. You can stick it into the base and go. I really, really like the color of this. It's clearly lipstick, my mouth is clearly made up, but somehow because of the undertones, because of the richness of it, it looks very natural. It just looks so much easier to wear than other rosy nudes that are as deep on me or as contrasty with my skin as this one is. I feel like there's enough yellow in it to keep it looking like it comes from the skin or it is like of the body. And there's also the fact that the formula goes on nice and creamy and nourishing feeling, but it's really, really thin. So it does feel like it's kind of becoming one with the lips. I've worn this a couple of times on the aforementioned day where I was out and about taking off my mask and putting it on, taking it off, putting it on. I wore this product and it lasted because it dries down from this. I feel like it's still reflecting a little bit because it's still a little bit creamy, but it really sets and becomes a not uncomfortable matte, and it becomes quite sturdy. This is reminding me how much I liked the lip crayon from Rose Ink and how impressed I was by the color and the formula of it. I'm going to swatch them next to each other. So there's Abstraction, which was the color of the lip crayon that I reviewed. There's Besotted. They're pretty much the same color. No wonder I like it. And curiously, even though this is a matte lipstick and it dries down and becomes so sturdy, curiously, it seems like the pigment level might be a tiny bit more sheer. I really like the lip crayon for the same reason. It's so incredibly sturdy. And when I first reviewed Rose Ink, I remember just being impressed by how long-lasting the formula is. Like, they're not messing around. It's not like makeup light. And it makes me think about the fact that Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, who developed these products, has been a model for a long time, works in the industry, long days, a lot of day to night makeup. She uses serious makeup as part of the way she puts herself together to look the way she does. And she created serious makeup. But I feel like it's serious makeup that looks less effortful than it is. Like it's serious makeup that doesn't look serious. I felt that way about the lip crayon because it's this pointy tip. So it's so easy to overline a little bit and give yourself the like Rosie Huntington-Whiteley lip look, They're so similar, the formulas. I think the lipstick is a little bit more, just a little more satiny. It doesn't go on quite as dry as the lip crayon, but for all intents and purposes, they're the same product. They do the same thing, and this one's just in the bullet format. I think I like the lipstick better. Even though I like the control of the tiny point that you can get on the crayon, I like the slightly more nourishing and maybe even ever so slightly more sheer, although I don't want to say that it's sheer because it's not. I would say ever so slightly less full coverage pigment in the lipstick. That just suits me ever so slightly better. So that's it. That's the finished look on me. Basically 3 impressive products from Rose Inc., except for the orangeness of the bronzer. I also think that the highlighter, it has some curious qualities. It's not totally unique to the market in my experience because it's so similar to the Salt New York Radiant Cream Tint Pro, but both of those products are quite different from most of the highlighting products on the market, especially the cream highlighters, cream balm highlighters, like the kind of thing you would think would be similar to them, and in a way that I ultimately really do like. And even though I've had a funny time accustoming myself to the curious behavior of the Rose Inc. highlighter, it's not like it ever looks bad. It just sometimes mysteriously lacks that magical wet glow that I thought that it was giving me when I first applied it, and that it gives me sometimes under certain lighting conditions. Of the 3 of them, I think that my favorite is probably the lipstick. It feels kind of unsexy to me. Like it's not the most glamorous lipstick launch or the most glamorous lipstick that I've ever tested or that's in my collection by any means. It's not alluring me with anything other than the way that it looks and feels on the lips and the way that the color looks on me. And I appreciate that. I feel like it's the kind of thing that I would happily recommend to like a friend or family member who doesn't wear that much makeup. Because it's just, again, serious makeup that isn't confusing, isn't going to let me down. I do feel like the bronzer and the highlighter aren't things that I would recommend to friends and family who don't wear that much makeup because potentially there's a learning curve with them. They do have these kind of quirks, but the lipstick is just good. It's just really, really good. And the unsexiness or the unspecialness, if you're on no buy July like I am, then that's a good thing because it's the kind of thing that you buy when you are like out of lipstick, and you are looking for one good solid rose nude to buy and then wear until you've used it up. And a purchase like that can definitely wait. It can wait until it's something that you've thought about for a long time and it feels like a really practical purchase and a good use of your budget. It doesn't feel to me like this kind of spangling magical star hovering just out of reach that makes you think that it's going to transform your life when you buy it. It's just a good piece of makeup. Again, I will link all the relevant videos down below. I'll also link my videos about Salt New York if you've never heard of that brand and you were intrigued by it when I mentioned it in passing. I have a couple of swatch videos of products from that brand and a couple videos where I apply the products to my face. So check the description box for links to all relevant videos. There will also be a link to another one of my videos popping up as the credits roll on this video. So if you want to stick around and keep hanging out with me, you can just click on that and watch it. But no matter what you choose to do, I hope that you will remember to take good care of yourself today so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.